Greetings from the Jazz Cloud. I'm Richie Zellon, and in this video I bring you tip number 3. Make use of guide tones. Coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Guitar channel, and if this is your first time and you want to learn all about the art of playing jazz guitar, this is the place. I bring you weekly lessons covering everything from chord melody, harmony, improvisation, technique, and much, much more. All from a guitar perspective. So I want to encourage you to subscribe and be sure to click the bell icon so you won't miss anything. In the previous lessons of this series, my first 2 tips have been stop thinking in scales and use approach note permutations. In both lessons, I stressed the importance of why we need to focus on the arpeggio as our central resource when improvising. Today, we examine another important tip, the use of guide tones. For those of you not familiar with guide tones, these are the notes that define the most important characteristics of a chord family. For example, if it's major or minor, or if it's a dominant. The most important guide tones are the 3 and the 7 of the chord. So again, we are dealing with the arpeggio, only that we are categorizing the role of its notes even further for yet a deeper understanding of how to use them to infer the changes. And talking about inferring the changes, let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. If I take just the 3 and 7 of each chord in the context of an entire progression, you can actually hear the root inferred throughout it. Let me show you. So here's a blues just playing the 3rd and the flatted 7th of the chord. I wasn't playing the root, but you can hear the nature, the characteristics of those dominant 7th chords just by playing the 3rd and the 7th. On the other hand, if I were to just play root and 5th, we don't really know, except that we're so used to hearing blues with power chords that we kind of imagine what it is. But really, when I'm playing a power chord, root and 5th, this could be a minor chord, part of a minor chord, or it could be part of a major chord, dominant chord. Okay, so it's hard to know with just root and 5th. On a 2-5-1, there I just played the 3rd and the 7th for every single chord. The minor 2 chord, the dominant chord, the 5 chord, and the 1 major 7th chord. And you can hear the essence of the chord without having to play the root or the 5th, just the 3rd and the 7th. Those guide tones are powerful. The subject of guide tones goes further than just using the 3rd and the 7th. But in this lesson, I want to teach you one of the most important uses of guide tones with just these 2 defining tones. And what I'm going to show you is how to voice lead smoothly to the closest guide tone at the point of chord change. Many solos sometimes may lose their flow or continuity at the point of chord change because of the notes employed to transition from one chord to the next. The interval in between may be too large, creating a sense of fragmentation, or the note employed may be the weakest choice to represent the new chord's identity. So what is required is a smooth transition to the closest seventh or third of the new chord. And if you think about it, the only way you are going to achieve this is if you can start an arpeggio either descending or ascending, not only from the root, but in this case, directly from the third or the seventh. So again, we need to know our arpeggios inside out. Let me demonstrate using a 2-5-1 how to voice lead with guide tones at the point of chord change. First, using just pure arpeggios, and then using arpeggios with approach tone permutations, which is what we talked about in the previous tip of this series. So here's a 2-5-1, and I'm just going to play a regular arpeggio for each chord, but at the point of chord change, I'm going to resolve to the closest third or seventh. 3, 7. And here it is again with added approach note permutations. Now, if I were to play the same arpeggios but not go to the closest guide tone, sometimes it can sound okay, but many times it sounds very fragmented. For example, there I'm like repeating the roots and it just doesn't flow as nicely. It's not connected. It's fragmented. Versus sounds like one phrase. So that covers my third tip. Please be sure to watch all the upcoming lessons in this series, as by the time I get to the 10th and final tip, you are going to see the big picture of some of the most important elements that need to come together to create a good jazz solo. In the next lesson, I will show you how to further add continuity to your solos when improvising over changes. Don't miss tip number 4. I'd love to hear your comments and welcome any questions you may have. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and be sure to click the bell icon so you won't miss anything. Have fun, and I will see you in the next video.